In China, an explosion in a restaurant claims 31 lives.
Authorities say the blast is rooted in a gas tank leak. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Marcos administration unifies local and national government units. Switzerland vows to support the Philippines Peace Pact in Mindanao. France welcomes delegates for Global Finance Pact Summit 2023. Honduras appoints a new security minister to stabilize the prison system. And tech mogul Elon Musk to visit India as soon as possible. Over 100 million SIM cards have been registered according to data from the National Telecommunications Commission. Vin Pascua has the details.
The number of SIM registrations reached 100,048,884, or about 60% of all mobile subscribers, according to the latest data from the National Telecommunications Commission, or the NTC. Among the registered SIM card users, the highest count comes from Smart Telecommunications Incorporated with 47,272,067 registrations. Globe Telecom follows with 45,868,577 registered SIM cards, while Dito Telecommunity has recorded 6,908,240 SIM card registrations. Smart's parent company PLDT said collaboration with the government and its focus on improving the customer experience on its SIM registration platform were vital to a successful campaign. Alfredo Panillo, PLDT President and Chief Executive Officer, made sure that Smart's SIM registration would be seamless. Smart is actively urging subscribers to register their SIM cards before July 25, the recently announced extension for SIM registration. Globe said that they are confident to be fully registered by July. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. signed RA 11934 into law on October 10, 2022, and aims to fight scams carried out through text and online messaging. Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
SEC marks its 85-year milestone as the Philippines Corporate Registrar. JD Mahinay for the details.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. hails the Security and Exchange Commission, or SEC, for its endeavors to safeguard the country's business and investment sectors. SEC serves the Philippines Corporate Registrar under Commonwealth Act No. 287 as part of the government's goal to boost the business sector in the country.
So I call on the good people that make up the SEC. Let us use all the successes to further promote ease of doing business and to actively contribute to our overall goal of bringing a comfortable life to our people.
The President urges the SEC to further implement the digitalization of its services and promote the advocacy for sustainable finance and good governance. SEC introduces its new digital services that will provide convenience in monitoring of corporations nationwide. These services include electronic SEC Universal Registration Environment, electronic SEC Education, Analysis, and Research Computing Hub, SEC API Marketplace, electronic registry application for market participants, and the SEC Check App 2.0. The President also warns the public about the prevailing threats that artificial intelligence imposes. He notes that the government is monitoring digital space transactions in the country to ensure the safety of the public against scammers and abusive online lenders.
There's no such thing as 100% risk-free. There's no way to guarantee these enormous returns on what they are claiming on the money that you give them. So be very, very. If the public is aware and knows and is able to spot because of the way that these scams are presented, then that is the best defense that we have.
JD Mahinay reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Malacanang Palace issues a memorandum circular greenlighting the Philippine Export Development Plan, or PEDP 2023-2028. Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin signs the memorandum circular number 23 that mandates all government agencies to implement programs and projects in support of the said development plan. PEDP aims to alleviate poverty in the country and reinforce job creation measures to guide the economy towards a high growth path. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. launched the plan during the first International Trade Forum at Shangri-La at the Fort. PEDP aims to generate $240 billion in 5 years, making the Philippines a major dynamic exporting nation. Under PEDP, the government will intensify its efforts in sectors of electronics, business process management, mining, agriculture, transportation, clothing, chemicals, and home furnishings.
Congresswoman Christine Tutor opposes the recommendation of Health Secretary Ted Herbosa to grant temporary licenses to nursing graduates who did not pass the licensure board examination. Christina Aguila tells us more.
Congresswoman Christine Tutor of Bohol, chairperson of the House Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation, states that the proposal to hire those who failed the board exam is not allowed under RA 9173 or the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002. She said that instead of focusing on non-board passers, the DOH should seek licensed nurses working in other fields and hire them to address the manpower shortage. The Philippine Nurses Association also suggests that the government fix the salaries for health workers and working conditions instead. Nurses opt out of the country due to higher wages offered abroad. Eleanor Nolasco, the president of the Philippine Nurses United, or FNU, said the government should give priority to the employment of those who are currently not practicing in the nursing field. FNU reports there were around 120,000 licensed nurses in the country who are not practicing nursing. Secretary Herbosa assessed that if no measures are taken by the government within 4 years, there will be a shortage of healthcare workers due to the continuous migration of nurses seeking better salaries abroad. Christina Aguila reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. greenlights the Philippine Open Government Partnership, or PHOGP. The Open Government Partnership is a significant element in the implementation of government reforms. Under Executive Order 31, the initiative aims to further enhance the partnerships between government and non-government units. A steering committee is also established by the directive, which ensures that open government qualities are imparted in the Republic's policies and programs. According to the President, the need to institutionalize the PHOGP serves as a founding basis for rendering more effective and sustainable measures to attend to current social concerns. The National Action Plan shall enact government projects and programs that conform to the OGP values.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says that he aims to sign the bill establishing the Maharlika Investment Fund as soon as he receives it. According to the president, he will look into the changes that have been made in the proposed law. The president notes that he monitored the discussions of the MIF and admits that there are things to worry about. The president previously certified the proposed legislation's enactment with urgency last May 22. The proposed measure reached the House of Representatives with a result of 279 votes in favor of the bill, while in the Senate, 19 senators voted to approve the establishment of the investment fund.
Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel calls on President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to veto the Maharlika Investment Fund. The Solon claims that the proposed law has a high chance of being considered unconstitutional. Pimentel argues that the MIF bill is untimely for the current situation of the world economy and geopolitics. He notes that the said legislation needs more time to be considered by the people. Meanwhile, Senate Secretary Renato Bantug defends that the Senate Secretariat combined the two different provisions under the Senate sessions and debate transcripts and records. Pro tempore Senate President Loren Legarda notes that the Senate did violate any rules. She adds that the bill had gone through a thorough debate before the proposed law is approved by the Senate. Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri signed the approved version of the MIF bill Wednesday.
The Swiss government vows to continuously support the Philippines in its peace initiatives in Mindanao. Eden Santos reports.
Swiss Ambassador Al Gashan meets President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at the Malacanang Palace as the envoy concludes his 3-year diplomatic post in the country. Ambassador Gashan reaffirms the close relationship between Switzerland and the Philippines, especially in stabilizing peace in Mindanao through the establishment of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM. The president hopes that Switzerland will continue to support the country. Gashan also eyes the country's initiatives toward food security and energy sufficiency. The Swiss envoy notes that the country has all ingredients and the crops of a successful agriculture sector. Gashan rendered his diplomatic mission in the country on August 4, 2019, as the ambassador-designate of the Swiss Confederation to the Philippines. Eden Santos reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming up, former Brazil President Jair Bolsonaro faces trial over voting claims. U.S. President Biden welcomes Indian Prime Minister Modi. And the European Union will create new fund for Ukraine. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart.
Kung ikaw ay isang estudyante o magulang na may anak na nais makakuha ng edukasyon sa ibang bansa, this episode is for you. In our latest edition, we will explore the possibilities of studying abroad, how to get to prestigious universities, and discuss the advantages of pursuing higher education overseas. To give us the course on studying abroad and running a visa services company, Mr. Ryan Santamaria Everest, founder and CEO of Las Islas Filipinas Education Services, join us as his company from Melbourne to different parts of the Philippines is now open for business.
It's an investment for yourself and your family. Everyone needs to update their skills, their knowledge.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Welcome back to Matanang Agila International. Security forces clashed with protesters supporting Sierra Leone's main opposition party Wednesday in the capital of Freetown. Police and military personnel fired tear gas while the demonstrators responded by throwing rocks. Danica Lee reports.
The opposition All People's Congress had called for peaceful nationwide protests ahead of national elections on Sunday in Sierra Leone. The party says it is concerned about what it calls discrepancies in the electoral process. About 100 demonstrators rallied outside the party's headquarters in Freetown Wednesday morning when security forces fired tear gas at them. Video circulating on social media shows what appears to be one protester shot by live bullets. But a police spokesman later told reporters security forces did not fire any shots. He alleges protesters were the ones who opened fire. Police arrested 66 people. The opposition party says it is concerned about cases of pre-election violence that has erupted in parts of the country in the last few days. It says a peaceful atmosphere is needed to ensure free, fair, and credible elections. Danica Lee for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Japanese Emperor Naruhito visited Indonesia's special region of Yogyakarta on Wednesday. Flying from Jakarta, the capital, the emperor arrived in Yogyakarta, where he had a meeting with Sri Sultan Hamengkubuwono X, the governor of Yogyakarta and the head of the historic Yogyakarta Sultanate. The emperor and his wife inspected the treasures at their palace and enjoyed traditional Indonesian dance performances. The emperor attended a banquet hosted by the Sultan. Former Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko, Naruhito's parents, also met the Sri Sultan during their visit to Indonesia in 1991. On Thursday, Emperor Naruhito is scheduled to visit the Borobudur Temple, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, before returning to Jakarta.
President Vladimir Putin asserts Russia's most important task is to develop nuclear triad. He believes this three-sided military force structure will improve Russia's army. From Moscow, RT correspondent Che Bao's reports.
The most important task here is the development of the nuclear triad, which is a key guarantee of Russia's military security and global stability. Already about half of the units and formations of the strategic missile forces are equipped with the latest Yars complexes. The troops are being re-equipped with modern missile systems with the Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle. In the near future, the first launches of the Sarmat complex with a new heavy missile will take up combat duty.
So this is indeed a significant piece of news. President Vladimir Putin announcing the deployment into combat duty of the Sarmat nuclear complex. The Sarmat system is unrivaled in the West in terms of its destructive power. Over 135 feet high, it can deploy up to 10 separate warhead systems via the hypersonic missile system and glide systems. It's also capable of deployment from land-based systems like the Yars system, which is a mobile launcher, and Russia's nuclear submarine fleet. Of course, Western reaction to this is one of concern, but President Putin has suggested that he intends to develop Russia's nuclear deterrent, to develop the Russian triad, as he said, and that it's a key component in Russia's defensive capability. And given the current geopolitical situation, it's unsurprising that President Putin has pushed for the Sarmat system, which has been dubbed the Satan II by NATO forces, into service. Shea Bowes, RT in St. Petersburg.
Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan met with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in London to discuss various issues on Wednesday. The meeting included Sweden's accession to NATO, defense cooperation, as well as energy and economic collaboration. Fidan expressed their support for Ukraine, emphasizing the importance of their long-standing alliance within NATO.
Well, thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to meet with you here today. We previously spoke on the phone following my appointment. Today we are here in London to demonstrate our support to Ukraine. In this meeting, we will also discuss our bilateral issues. As you know, the truth is we may not see eye to eye on every issue, but our long-standing alliance within NATO and other platforms compel us to continue to work together.
Blinken praised the bilateral relations between the U.S. and Turkey, highlighting their collaboration on crucial matters. Fidan also held separate talks with other European Union foreign ministers.
And as you know, President Erdogan and President Biden had established Turkey-U.S. strategic mechanisms last year in Madrid, Spain. And the objective of the mechanism is to address the outstanding issues and to explore the opportunities for deepening our cooperation further. So I am looking forward to working with Secretary Blinken to this end. Thank you.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva met with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Rome on Wednesday. This was his first visit to Italy with Meloni. They discussed the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and economic cooperation between Italy and Brazil. Lula da Silva also met with Italian President Sergio Mattarella, the main opposition leader Democratic Party Eli Schlein, and Rome Mayor Roberto Gualtieri. The Brazilian president said that he had talked with Mattarella about the strengthening bilateral relations and expanding commercial exchanges between the two countries.
Former Brazil President Jair Bolsonaro's political career hangs in the balance as he faces a trial this week. Bolsonaro is accused of abusing his authority by summoning ambassadors to make baseless claims about the security of Brazil's voting system. This Thursday, he appears before the Superior Electoral Court, or TSE, and if he loses, he may be ineligible for political office until 2030. Bolsonaro is also under investigation in multiple criminal cases. His lawyer, Tarcísio Vieira, acknowledges the challenging circumstances, citing unfavorable press and resentment among the judicial and political classes. Vieira argues that the evidence against Bolsonaro is weak as it pertains to a pre-campaign meeting. He criticizes the inclusion of a draft decree found at the house of Bolsonaro's former justice minister, stating that it creates a misleading narrative. Bolsonaro remains calm and prepared for his judgment, with plans to appeal to the TSE and the Supreme Court should he lose. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched his official state visit to the White House, welcomed by President and First Lady Joe and Jill Biden. Modi acknowledged several relations that their nations have particularly a shared legacy of British rule, a democratic political system, and an emphasis on higher education and research. He said that interpersonal ties are a top priority as the two leaders are prepared to upgrade their bilateral partnerships. Aside from free trade supply chains and Indian-American corporate business opportunities, the two leaders are expected to ratify several agreements, mainly focused on defense and critical and emerging technologies. This might be easier said than done, though, since the U.S. State Department has assigned India a Level 2 travel advisory, meaning they're in the exercise increased caution category.
New York Special Narcotics Prosecutor Bridget Brennan voices her worries about the surge in fentanyl trafficking and its implications for public health. Elijah Villanueva tells us more.
Fentanyl, a potent synthetic opioid, has been wreaking havoc in the illegal drug market, along with its variants known as analogs. In a recent interview, Brennan highlighted some alarming developments and called for collective action to address the growing crisis. One particularly troubling trend is the combination of fentanyl with xylazine, an animal tranquilizer.
What we have seen most recently is some deadly combinations. Xylazine is now being mixed with fentanyl. And xylazine is not an opioid, it's a sedative. It's an animal tranquilizer. And it works on the body differently. And that combination of xylazine and fentanyl is proving to be not only deadly, but it is very destructive.
Moreover, the drug landscape has witnessed a significant increase in the production and distribution of fentanyl-laced pills.
Fentanyl is pressed into pills, often in Mexico and sometimes in the US. And the pills are distributed through social media, through websites. They may be counterfeit pills. They may appear to be legitimate prescription drugs, but be completely fentanyl. And last year, here in New York City, my office alone seized almost 1 million fentanyl pills.
To appeal to a wider market, they often make these pills resemble legitimate prescription medications. Brennan expresses deep concern for unsuspecting buyers who may be more naive and lacking any tolerance for fentanyl. To combat this threat, Brennan emphasizes the importance of reducing the drug supply and cutting off the financial backflow to Mexico and China, which are major players in the illicit drug trade. Brennan underscored the significance of education and honest messaging, particularly targeted at young people. the United States must address its own role in perpetuating the cycle of drug abuse.
The other thing that I think about a lot is how to break our cycle here. You know, we like to lay all the blame on Mexico, but we're the ones using the drugs. We're the ones who, the US has decreased the number of treatment programs. You don't see many very straightforward, clear, well-done prevention campaigns in the US either anymore. So we're not focusing on all the aspects of this problem.
Elijah Villanueva for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed several guests at the Palais Brongniart in Paris for this year's Global Financial Pact Summit. Bernadette Manuel has the details.
This year's summit aims to forge policies aimed to aid in the progression of several struggling bodies like the G20, Conference of the Parties or COP, the IMF, World Bank, and the UN. Macron said he aims to create a comprehensive roadmap that could be used for the coming months in several contexts, from debt relief to climate finance. Many of the topics on the agenda take up suggestions from a group of developing countries led by Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley, dubbed the Bridgetown Initiative.
What is required of us now is absolute transformation and not reform of our institutions. And that transformation is required because while the world knew since the 1890s that we were facing the warming of the climate, we chose not to heed the advice of scientists. And that which could have been done in more than a century is now being reduced to be done in less than a decade.
The COVID-19 pandemic pushed many poor countries into debt distress as they were expected to continue servicing their obligations in spite of the massive shock to their finances. Nearly 80 years after the Bretton Woods Agreement created the World Bank and IMF, leaders aim to squeeze more financing from multilateral lenders for the countries that need it most. Leaders arriving in Paris to champion that message include Kenyan President William Ruto and Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo. Other attendees include Chinese Premier Li Qiang, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen. Ajay Banga is also expected in Paris in his first international meeting since taking the helm of the World Bank. The summit will not aim to bring up the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, but the French president is guaranteed to receive feedback from the leaders of Senegal, Egypt, Zambia, Uganda, Congo Republic, Comoros, and South Africa, who would be fresh from a mediation trip to the warring sides. Bernadette Manuel for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The European Union will provide Ukraine with 50 billion euros or $54.58 billion in aid from 2024 to 2027. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says this fund will provide predictable finance to Ukraine on its EU path.
Yesterday, the European Commission proposed to create a new facility for Ukraine within the budget of the European Union. It will ensure constant financial support till 2027. The facility will be financed in three ways: with grants from the European budget, with loans raised on capital markets, and eventually with proceeds from the immobilized Russian assets. We will come with a proposal for these assets before the summer break because the perpetrator has to be held accountable.
The United Nations is urging neighbors of Sudan to keep their borders open. The number of asylum seekers now exceeds 500,000. Carlo Valdez has the details.
Despite security worries, the head of the United Nations Refugee Agency, Filippo Grandi, urges Sudan's neighbors to keep their borders open. The number of people fleeing the conflict now tops 500,000. Grandi warns that the 2-month-old war threatens to spread insecurity in the fragile nations that border Sudan. He says the situation is worrying because there has not been much progress. He says we are unfortunately gradually witnessing the destruction of Sudan. Grandi appeals to Sudan's neighboring countries to open their borders to the people who are fleeing for their lives. He says humanitarian aid is a tiny fraction of what rich countries spend on their military. He says it's unbelievable that we cannot make a bit more of an effort to help. Carlo Valdez for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Leaders and representatives from more than 60 countries are in London for a 2-day conference to secure funding to help Ukraine recover from the ravages of war. From England, Ryan Florentino reports.
Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shamal said during the 2-day conference he expected to secure almost $7 billion in aid. After speaking in the London conference, Russia's war meant Kiev was facing the largest reconstruction project in Europe since World War II. At the conference, Britain, the United States, the European Union, and others pledged billions of dollars in additional help. As Ukraine said, it needed yet more capital and also commitments to specific projects to not only recover, but to develop into a powerful member of the Western world. Ukraine's infrastructure minister Oleksandr Kubrakov pledges to work with the World Bank on reconstruction. Let's listen in.
Today we are planning and implementing hundreds of restoration projects, and the number is going to reach tens of thousands. Together with World Bank and within the World Bank infrastructure prioritization framework, we are developing a single state methodology based on estimates of number of population that get access to basic services, the economic and environmental impact of the project.
The World Bank has put an estimate of $14 billion on Ukraine's immediate needs to repair the damage caused by Russia's invasion. But a recent study by the World Bank, the UN, the European Union, and the Ukrainian government said the wider recovery of the economy would cost $411 billion. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Ryan Florentino for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Up next, Romanian court charges Andrew Tate with rape and human trafficking. Honduran president dismisses the country's security minister following a deadly riot at a women's prison. And UK seed bank stores over 2.5 billion of seeds to prevent species extinction. Please don't go away. Mata ng Agila International will be back with more stories.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
Manila, this is Bruno Mars. I'll be performing at the Philippine Arena June 24th and June 25th. Go get your tickets at livenation.ph. I'll see y'all soon.
Ano nga ba ang kasalukuyang estado ng Philippine sports? Nasaan tayo pagdating sa sports?
Other countries, naku, I compare it to the Philippines. We are backwards.
Pero sa regional scale, nakikita natin na may laban.
Sa gymnastics, kompleto naman ba ang suporta sa inyo?
We have to advance. Ang hirap-hirap.
Pero sa kabila ng naiuwi nilang medalya at pride sa bansa, nakukuha ba ng ating mga atleta ang tamang suporta? Mag-reality check tayo.
Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's stand together sa Net 25.
In Kyrgyzstan, fire engulfs an oil plant after a cistern explosion in Chopokov. Local media says 2 powerful explosions occurred during the fire. Ministry of Emergency Situations says 8 fire brigades gathered to combat the blaze. Authorities say 6 cisterns, 2 fuel trucks, and 4 cars burned down in the incident.
The French government said that it would shut down an activist climate group over a series of recent demonstrations. This includes one that led to fierce clashes with police over a controversial irrigation project. Government spokesman Olivier Véran accused the uprisings of the Earth or SLT coalition of encouraging violence at protests in March against an irrigation reservoir near Sainte-Soline in western France. Véran added that SLT started violence by inviting rioters who came from across Europe with metal bars and pétanque balls to try and kill police officers. SLT, meanwhile, denounced a very political and extremely worrying dissolution demanded from the head of state by the agriculture industry. SLT is a coalition of several activist associations. They are one of several organizers of a banned demonstration against a new rail link between the eastern city of Lyon and Turin in Italy.
There is still no sign of the submersible that has been missing in the deep Atlantic Ocean since Sunday. The underwater vessel carrying 5 people had been on an expedition to view the sunken wreckage of the Titanic when it lost contact with its mothership. Rose Papa Angeles tells us more.
Searchers for the Titanic submersible had a glimmer of hope Wednesday when they detected noises underwater, but they can't be sure the noise is coming from the missing vessel. There is still no sign of it, and the clock is running out. The vessel has a 96-hour supply of oxygen, meaning unless it is found soon, it will run out of oxygen within hours. U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard ships, aided by air support, have been scouring some 20,000 square kilometers of ocean. The wreckage of the Titanic lies on the floor of the Atlantic, almost 4,000 meters underwater, some 685 kilometers off the coast of the Canadian province of Newfoundland. 3 of the 5 people aboard the submersible had paid $250,000 each, that is nearly 14 million pesos, to join the expedition. There have been questions about the safety of the vessel. Several media reports say the company had refused a call to have an independent body certify its submersibles. Rose Papa Angeles from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In Sweden, U.S. bomber jets take part in training exercises with NATO member countries at the military base in Luleå, Sweden. This is a first in modern history. 2 American B-1B Lancers landed at Luleå Calax Airport in the northern part of the country.
We have a long-standing history of joint operations with Sweden. We look forward to continuing to deepen and further our operational planning together.
An explosion and fire in a historic area of central Paris has caused the partial collapse of a building, injuring at least 24 people. The district's mayor says the blast occurred following a gas leak. Timon Lee has more.
This is what the scene looked like in this video captured by an eyewitness. Police say several of the injured are fighting for their lives. Some 270 firefighters battled the flames. There are reports that rescue workers are searching for 2 people who are missing. Tall flames and smoke billowed from the building and could be seen several kilometers away. An investigation has been launched to determine whether negligence led to the blast. The area is one of the top tourism areas in French capital. Timon Lee for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan appeared in court for a hearing to lift their house arrest following their indictment on human trafficking and rape charges in Romania. Andrew Tate expressed his hope of being found innocent.
First, affluent, wealthy men who have been unfairly attacked. In our situation, unfortunately, it happens quite often.
The charges were filed by the Directorate for Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism, or DICOT, alleging that the Tate brothers were involved in human trafficking and rape.
Foarte multe capete de acuzare, pentru că este o acuzație care a fost inițial grup infracțional organizat și a doua acuzație trafic de persoane cu cele presupuse 6 persoane vătămate. Vis-a-vis de chestiunea cu violul, o spun pentru a nu știu câta oară. Încă de la momentul decembrie 2022, judecătorul de drepturi și libertăți a spus foarte clar, nu
Tate claims that he received support from a number of Romanian people despite the alleged charges.
I want to give a very special thanks to Romania and the Romanian people. The number of Romanian people who send me messages of support is absolutely fantastic. This is my home. I love this country. I'm going to stay here regardless, no matter what. And I look forward to being found innocent in the end of everything. So thank you all very much. And speak again soon.
Honduran President Xiomara Castro dismissed the country's security minister Ramon Sabion Pineda following a deadly riot at a women's prison that resulted in the deaths of at least 46 people. President Castro attributed the violence to gangs and claimed it occurred with the knowledge and cooperation of security authorities. The decision to dismiss Sabion is part of Castro's efforts to regain control over the prison system in Honduras. General Pineda will instead take up a post in the Honduran Foreign Service.
El general Gustavo Sánchez sustituye en el cargo al general Ramón Antonio Sabillón Pineda, quien tomará un cargo en el Servicio Exterior hondureño.
Ibis Alvarado, Honduran press secretary, announced that the government remains resolute in its fight against organized crime.
El gobierno de la República mantiene su compromiso de combatir la criminalidad organizada y demostrar el boicot contra la seguridad interior propiciada desde las cárceles.
President Castro appoints General Gustavo Sanchez, director of the Honduran police, as the new Minister of Security.
In China's northwestern region, a devastating gas explosion at a barbecue restaurant claims the lives of 31 individuals. The explosion, caused by a leaking liquefied petroleum gas tank, occurred in the Yinchuan, the capital city of Ningxia. 7 individuals are still receiving treatment for burns and injuries caused by broken glass. Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered stronger safety checks and providing immediate care to the injured. Gas and chemical explosions remain a recurring issue in China despite ongoing efforts to enhance security measures.
A new report released Monday says Europe is the fastest warming continent in the world. The report from the World Meteorological Organization and the EU's Climate Change Service says since the 1980s, Europe has been warming twice as fast as the global average. Thomas I. Likeness has the story.
You can see the results of this warming trend in these images. Rivers drying up. Parched farm fields with crops thirsting for rain. People trying to stay cool in scorching temperatures. Wildfires that have become more frequent and more intense. Glaciers, they're shrinking at an alarming rate. Weather experts say Europeans should brace themselves for more deadly heat waves. Climate change is driving all of this. On average, the globe is warmed up by 1.2 degrees Celsius, but Europe has shown an increase of 2.3 degrees. That's almost twice the world average. The severe heat has proven costly, both in economic terms and human terms. The report says 16,000 people died last year from the effects of heat waves. Floods, storms, and droughts caused more than $2 billion in damages last year, and experts say this is not a one-off occurrence. They say the heat stress will continue. And while the effects of climate change are well documented, solutions remain elusive. Reducing dependence on fossil fuels will help, but ultimately, the world's population will have to adapt to a hotter environment. Thomas I. Likeness for Matanlang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Located in the south of London, the Millennium Seed Bank is the largest seed bank in the world. Sources say the vaults are located underground and can withstand flooding and bombing. From London, England, Sarah Alcantara has the details.
Launched in 2000 and located in rural Sussex, England, the Millennium Seed Bank is considered to be the most diverse wild plant genetic resource in the world. In flood, bombed, and radiation-proof vaults, it houses a collection of more than 2.4 billion seeds belonging to about 40,000 species. The Millennium Seed Bank contains seeds from almost all of the UK's native plant species, plus collections originating from 189 countries and territories, and it stores nearly 16% of the world's wild plant species. The world's largest seed bank, located in the sleepy countryside south of London, is in a race against time because 2 out of 5 plant species are threatened with extinction, according to scientists.
We're sometimes referred to as a doomsday vault, but that's not really the sort of way we're looking at it. We're an active research facility here, so we're always researching seed dormancy and different seed traits, sending seeds to the moon, doing things like that, or to space, to find out more about their characteristics and different pressures. So yeah, it's very exciting here being somewhere where there's so much research going on rather than just a doomsday vault.
The seeds are then stored in glass jars before scientists, kitted up like Arctic explorers, and take them to the minus 20 degrees Celsius or minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. The largest collection of seeds is from the orchid family, but there are also rare plants such as the world's smallest water lily and the Descamptia antarctica, also known as Antarctic hairgrass, one of 2 flowering plants native to the frozen continent. The MSB, which receives public funding and donations, has partnerships with 90 countries.
So you take a sample from a seed bank and you multiply it in a nursery, and then you can plant the seeds back, put the young plants back into the ground, into maybe a habitat that's become degraded and a species has been lost from that site, but it could survive there again if it was helped.
Nearly 20% of the world's flora is preserved at Wakehurst, with priority given to plants that are threatened, particularly by climate change, and endemic plants that can only be found in one geographical area. Plants that have a societal function, such as for medical or economic use, also have their place. I am Sara Alcantara, London Bureau for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
India's New Delhi is sweltering in scorching summer heat. This as rising temperatures are making India's summers even more unbearable, especially in urban areas full of concrete, trapping the heat. JC Yumol has more.
People in New Delhi flock to roadside vendors for drinking water. In an attempt to cool down, they also take shelter in the shade of the megacity's park. India's health minister says the government will work to mitigate deaths from surging temperatures after reports of several fatalities caused by a severe heat wave this week. India's north and east have seen scorching temperatures of up to 46 degrees Celsius or 114.8 degrees Fahrenheit this week. This is a health authorities report as spate of heat stroke hospitalization and deaths. Scientists says hot spells are becoming harsher and more frequent across South Asia as a result of climate change. At least 11 people died of heat stroke in the western state of Maharashtra in April after an estimated 1 million spectators waited for hours in the sun at a government event. JC Yumul for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up, Elon Musk meets Indian Prime Minister Modi in New York. The International Olympic Committee warns Afghanistan for its Olympic status. And Peru Central is the world's best restaurant 2023. Catch the latest in business, sports, tech, and entertainment. Mata ng Agila International will be back.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk said that the company was looking to invest in India as soon as possible. Musk's statement comes after a meeting with Indian Minister or Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New York. The tech mogul's push into the Indian market has been planned for a long time, given that India was one of the first Asian markets he planned on introducing his EV brand Tesla to. That plan has been delayed because of Tesla's efforts to negotiate lower import duties with local government.
I like him quite a lot. He visited our Fremont factory several years ago, and so we've now known each other for a while.
Tesla currently has 1 gigafactory in Asia, with its Shanghai factory being its biggest car manufacturing plant outside the United States and accounted for more than half of Tesla's global deliveries in 2022. Last month, Musk said at an event that the company would likely pick a location for a new Tesla factory by the end of the year and that India was an interesting option.
He really cares about India because he's pushing us to make significant investments in India, which it is something that we intend to do, and we're just trying to figure out the right timing.
Japanese automaker Suzuki Motor Corporation has formed a partnership with startup company SkyDrive Incorporated to engage in the production of flying cars. The collaboration was announced on Tuesday, with plans set to begin manufacturing electric vertical takeoff and landing or VTOL aircraft by 2024. SkyDrive will establish a subsidiary to oversee the manufacturing process, utilizing a Suzuki Group factory located in central Japan. Furthermore, the companies have aspirations to exhibit their flying vehicles at the 2025 World Expo in Osaka. In United Kingdom, the manufacturer Skyrora performs tests on the construction of 3D printed space rocket engines. According to the manufacturer, each trial runs for 250 seconds, which imitates a real orbital mission engine performance. The engine uses a closed-cycle stage combustion system that utilizes hydrogen peroxide and kerosene. The project aims to cut production time costs with measures to upsize for orbital launches from Saxaford Spaceport in the Shetland Isles.
The Philippines has defeated India in the 2023 Asian Volleyball Confederation or AVC Challenge Cup for women in Indonesia. Survival was the name of the game for the Philippines as they slipped past India with a thrilling 5-set victory, 25-22, 26-28, 11-25, 29-27, and 18-16. Veteran Aiza Maizo Pontillas led the Philippines, provided most of the crucial points in the latter parts of each set. Setter Janiel Cheng and Shaya Adorador were also pivotal in the extended deciding frame as they took turns in scoring to manage a tight 5-set win. The Philippines improved their record to 1-all in Pool E and is on the verge of advancing into the semifinals 2023 AVC Challenge Cup. The International Olympic Committee, or IOC, warns Afghanistan about Paris Olympic status over denying women to compete in sports. On Wednesday, the Afghanistan team's status for the 2024 Paris Olympics was put on question by the IOC over growing frustrations with the Taliban blocking access to sports for women and girls.
The IOC-EB continues to be extremely concerned by the restrictions placed on women and young girls to access sport in Afghanistan, which have not yet been reversed despite the repeated calls from the IOC and which run contrary to the Olympic values of non-discrimination, inclusion and respect. Consequently, the IOC-EB urges the Afghan NOC and the Afghan Directorate of Physical Education and Sport to drastically strengthen and accelerate their efforts with the highest authorities in the country and expects to see significant progress and concrete results at all levels in the very near future.
The IOC could suspend Afghanistan's Olympic body for government interference in the independent management of sports, while supporting the country's athletes to compete in Paris as an independent team under the Olympic flag and anthem. The issue was discussed at an IOC executive board meeting that also took updates on problems with Olympic officials in India, Indonesia, Iran, and Guatemala. The issue will be discussed again in October at an IOC board meeting held in India soon after the Asian Games. The Philippines has defeated India in the 2023 Asian Volleyball Confederation or AVC Challenge Cup for women in Indonesia. Rather, Pharrell Williams debuted his collection for Louis Vuitton Spring-Summer 2024 in Paris, marking his role as the men's creative director. The star-studded show, themed Lovers, featured celebrities like Beyoncé, Jay-Z, Rihanna, and more. Williams showcased printed leather jerseys, quilted denim, and Agila camo with LV logo cutouts. He expressed his pride as the second black man to hold this position at the renowned fashion house. The event also premiered his new songs and included a surprise performance by Jay-Z. Louis Vuitton confirmed Williams as the late Virgil Abloh's successor in February 2023, emphasizing his visionary talent in music, art, and fashion. Peru Central crowned as the world's best restaurant 2023. The Peruvian restaurant Central by chefs Virgilio Martinez and Pia Leon was crowned Best Restaurant in the World 2023 by the influential 50 Best Restaurants ranking. According to critics, the restaurant in Lima was rewarded for its cuisine, celebrating the diversity of ingredients as well as the history and traditions of Peru. Second place went to Barcelona restaurant Disfrutar, followed by the Madrid establishment Diverso at third place. The 50 Best ranking has been awarded since 2002 by 1,080 independent experts under the aegis of the British Restaurant magazine from the William Reed Press Group.
Not quite the weekend yet, Gianna.
Not the weekend yet.
To send you off, here's a quote from Grace Kelly, an American actress turned Princess of Monaco. You don't get anything for nothing. Everything has to be earned through work, persistence, and honesty.
That's something my parents would always tell me. Things will not just be handed to you. You have to work hard for it.
Mine too. Nothing like the value of hard work.
Exactly. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.